Our movie begins with Jack, who works as a literary agent, spends all his time talking on the phone and is interested in nothing but his work. He's a bossy, exploitative, and arrogant person. He meets with the hotel employee who gave him his book to read, but he did not pay any attention to it and ignored it, as well as treats his secretary Iran in an arrogant manner. And his interest is focused only on publishing the books of Dr. Seja, who has many lovers and followers. At the meeting, he explains to his partners that he believes in Dr. Sonya's philosophy, which is based on, and that he can convince everyone to buy his books. Jack then goes to Sen's meditation house and participates in a meditation class. But instead of being silent and meditating, he tries to impress CJA with his words and clips. And indeed, he meets Dr. Eyes to him and tells him that after many years of silence and contemplation, he managed to reach the stage of enlightenment. Seja easily discovered his lie and asked him about the real reason for. Jack told him that he wanted to publish his book because he believed in his wise philosophy. But Seja refused his offer and left. Jack did not give up and tried to convince him, then leaning on a sacred tree and cutting his finger from it. Seja tells him that if he agrees to publish his book, he must publish it in his own way and on his terms, and that if they agree to this, there will be no way to back down. He succeeded in getting what he wants without even knowing the content of the book. Jack then went to the nursing home to celebrate with his mother, who suffers from Alzheimer's, and she always thought that Jack was her husband, Raymond. Then he told her that he loved her, kissed her, and left. He came home and suddenly there was an earthquake and a tree came out in his yard, and it was the same sacred tree from which he was wounded. Jack thought it was a gift from Seja and decided to keep it. 2 leaves fell on the ground, and Jack went too. In the morning he went to work, and Iran told him that Seja sent his book and that the book consisted of only 5 pages. Jack was shocked and asked him to see the book. And indeed the book was very small, and directly Jack went to see Seja and inquire about the 5-page book. Only Jack was angry and upset and thought it was just a joke. But Seja did not explain anything to him and took him to see the sacred tree. Then Sen, you noticed that whenever Jack spoke, leaves fell from the tree. He asked Jack to say anything, and Jack said to him, "What am I going to say?" And 2 leaves fell from them. Seja understood what was going on, but Jack did not understand anything yet and thought that Seja was joking. It began to sing quickly, and the leaves of the tree began to fall with him. Seja explained to him that there is a relationship between him and the tree, and that whenever he speaks, leaves fall from the tree, and that if all the leaves of the tree expire, the person associated with it dies. Then Seja told him that the tree now contains only 1,000 leaves, and this is equivalent to 1,000 words, and that every word he utters a leaf will fall from the tree. CJA told him that this was a test for him and that he had to go spiritual journey for 3 days to discover himself, and that during this period, he should not talk to anyone and remain silent all the time. Jack then tried to write everything he wanted to say, but he noticed that even if he wrote what he wanted to say, a leaf fell from the tree, and even if he tried to speak by sign, the leaves fell. A blind man stood next to him and asked him to tell him if the road was clear to pass. But Jack couldn't say anything. The blind man decided to cross the crowded road. Jack tried to save him, but he caused many traffic accidents after. He reached his company and tried to deal with Iran without speaking, but he failed. Then he met his manager, who took him to meet a new client, interested in knowing everything about Seja. Jack tried to shorten his words and told them that life is a journey. Then he keeps silence so that the leaves of the tree would not fall. But at the same time, 2 squirrels climbed into the tree, and Jack felt a tickle that made him leave the meeting quickly. Then he met the head of Simon's company, the one responsible for marketing Sen's book. Jack began to deal with them in a provocative and rude manner, which made the president of the company surprised by him. At the same time, the gardener of his house was watering the tree, and this made Jack sweat so hard he could not focus on the meeting, which made the company officials leave, and the meeting failed greatly. Jack then went to a meeting of parents at his son's school. They asked him to sing with them. Jack began to sing and the leaves began to fall. He returned to his home, and his wife tried to talk to him about his bad relationship with his son and told him that he should spend more time with him and talk to him more. But he told her that he suffers from a problem that he cannot explain and that he cannot speak. Now, the next day at work, he meets his manager, who scolds him a lot because he was the reason for the failure of yesterday's important meeting, and that this is his last chance to fix things, and that there is a small deal that he has to do over the phone. The idea came to him to use the dolls he has in his office, because every one of them says a different word. Jack brought all the dolls in the company and started using them to communicate with the customer until he was able to complete the deal successfully. Aaron called him and told him that there was an important meeting for him with the company director and some customers. Jack wore normal clothes and went to the meeting. But at the same time, the garden workers were trying to get rid of the tree by spraying it with insecticides, and Jack on the other hand was affected by these gases and acted strangely, and started laughing and making strange movements, which again led to the failure of the meeting, and his manager expelled him from work because of. Later he meets CJ. After returning from travel, Jack tries to talk to him by sign and tells him that his life has been destroyed and that his marriage is over, and his wife took his son from him and that he also lost his job. But CJ tells him that there is no solution to his problem. Early in the morning, Jack went to the tree and discovered that there were only 20 leaves left. He started taking care of the tree and watering it and trying to communicate with it mentally. His phone rang and the person in charge of the nursing home was the caller. She told him that today was his mother's birthday and that she was waiting for him so badly. But he hung up and didn't say anything. He went to see his wife and son and said goodbye to them and met the receptionist and told him that his book was wonderful, and gave him a check for $10,000 and thanked the employee for his help, and then went to see his mother in the nursing. After she saw him, she thought he was her husband. Jack tried to talk to her by sign and started claiming that he was her husband, and she told him how much she loved him and started talking to him about her son, Jack, and telling him that he is a wonderful son and deserves everything beautiful in his life. Jack kissed her after that and said goodbye to her and went to visit his father's grave. He began to imagine himself when he was young, waiting for his father under the. And then the man Jack started talking to the child, Jack, on the basis that he was his father and telling him that he wished to make up for everything he had missed. Jack wakes up and tells his dead father that he forgives him. The last leaf fell in the tree and Jack felt pain in his heart till he fell to the ground while the rain was falling. But suddenly Aran calls him and tells him that the tree has come back to life again, and that it spreads all its leaves and bloomed. Jack's life improved greatly, and he wrote a book called 1,000 Words and met Cinder, who liked the new Jack and liked his new book. Also, Aran took Jack's place at work and started behaving in the same old Jack and became a selfish and arrogant person until the same tree came to him in the office immediately. He knew that what happened to Jack could happen to him too. That's for Jack. He moved to his new home and surprised his wife with the house she had always dreamed of. And he also took the sacred tree with him and planted it in his garden to remind him of all that had happened.